Hello everyone, Tennessee Tactical back at it again with another YouTube video for you this morning. We have finished up the hammer-fired pistol course from SDI's Handgun Specialist Program, and we are now going to go into reflection and review with that. And later on, we are going to do a whole entire program review of, like I said, the Handgun Specialist Program. So let's get into it. So there's a couple quick things that I want to mention real quick before we go ahead and start with my usual reflection videos. First off being that if you did not see my course material unboxing of this course, that's because I didn't make one. I wanted to try to switch up the platform a little bit. Let me know if you guys like this better or the previous program or the previous videos better, but it doesn't matter anyway because this is the last course of the school, so there's not going to be any more course related stuff like that going on other than the final review. But anyway, we did get a couple things for this course. The first one being this mass driver compensator from Strike Industries. I've actually already installed it, and I'll show you what that looks like here in a little bit because we got to talk about that. There's a few important things here. And then we got a caliper from SDI as well. This is a, I can't pronounce the company, but it's just like a standard caliper. I think you can get this one at Harbor Freight, but I'm not sure. So it's probably one of those quality kind of things right there. So for the firearm that we got for this course is the SAR B6. This is like a CZ clone. It's already been safety checked before the video. There's a few things wrong with it, so we're not going to really get into it and play with it, but I will show you the demonstration and kind of what it looks like of the SAR B6, and later on, if you would like me to, I'll make a separate video on this. So those are the course materials that we received from SDI for this course. So I'm going to go into this reflection like I do every other reflection video. I've got my iPad pulled up here to kind of help me guide through each week and talk about what we've done each week in this course. So let's get into it. So for FTH 223, hammer-fired pistols, that is the course title. So for week 1, we learned handgun components and cycle of operations. So basically, most of the components it's going to be in most of your hammer-fired pistols, minus a few different design features from, specific firearms. But, generally speaking, hammer-fired pistols have their own group of components, just like revolvers, just like striker-fired pistols, just like bolt-action rifles, any kind of firearms got their own group of main components. So we learned about the main components and also the cycle of operations within the SAR B6 or within the hammer-fired pistol. So basically just how this firearm functions. So that was week 1. Week 2, we learned about measurements, basic assembly, and troubleshooting. So measurements that we learned was like headspace, rifling twist rate, barrel length, trigger pull, stuff like that we learned for the measurements of this week. We also learned how to do a proper procedure and function check of this firearm. So we learned how to properly do a functions check on the firearm, an empty and dry functions checks. So we did an empty and dummy check. So we had dummy rounds, so we had to do a functions check with and without dummy rounds with the SAR B6. And then we learned how to field strip the SAR B6 and proper cleaning methods with proper tools and products for cleaning. We also learned about timing, tight tolerance versus loose tolerance. Basically, broad term of tolerance or in firearms is the tolerance is how the space between the components. So how closely they fit together, right? So think about like a Kimber, like a 1911. A lot of your custom 1911s, which are hammer-fired pistols, so it's applicable to this course. A lot of those custom 1911s are going to have a tight tolerance, so they're going to be locked down solid. So you're not going to have a lot of space and moving of the firearms. So everything's not going to wiggle. It's going to be really tight and compacted in there. Some firearms, kind of like Glocks, they wiggle a little bit. So those are looser tolerance firearms. It just means that there's more space between components. So that's what tight and loose tolerance is. Then we learned a little bit about firearm finishes. It was kind of weird because, I've learned this in the previous SDI associate's degree. The whole course was firearms finishes and engravings for one of the classes that I took for that program. But we learned a little bit about firearms finishes here. Bluing, rust browning, parkerizing, a few other things like Duracoat, Cerakote, things like that. So that was week 2 of the hammer-fired pistol. So for week 3, we learned about more measurements and detailed diagnosis. So basically, we had to fully disassemble and reassemble our SAR B6, and there was an issue with that, and I'll talk about it in just a second. But detailed diagnosis. So we learned about how different inspection versus repair. So we had a big list, and it was like, and this is just one example out of many, but we had this list, and it's like, okay, you inspected the firearm, you determined that the firing pin is either worn or broken. Now you can go about repairing that. There are 2 ways to repair a firing pin. Either one, you can just trash the old one and replace a new one if you can find the part, or you can actually fabricate a firing pin. So those are things that we've kind of learned. And again, you can go into insanely amount of detail on that, but for the sake of time, all you can learn from that is that we just learned out a bunch of inspection notes, like, extractor, ejector, recoil spring, and then we learned about how, okay, if that part's broke, how do we go about fixing it? So basically, we learned how to repair certain aspects of the hammer-fired pistol. We also learned precision measure tools like calipers, multimeters, and this is where we actually, when we fully disassembled the SAR B6, we had to take a few selected components, like the firing pin, the extractor, and I think the recoil spring, and we had to take our caliper, and we had to measure and get correct dimensions and draw them out on paper and draw like a blueprint schematic of that. So they called it reverse engineering, which is technically true, but it's just kind of weird. So basically, we just took some measurements of that and learned how to properly measure different components within firearms. So that was week 3. So for week 4, we learned about customization and modification. So, just kind of like most people do when they buy a firearm. The first thing they learn or they want to do is throw some aftermarket junk on it, right? So we learned about extractor and ejector tuning, spring tuning, slide modification, barrel porting, optics, and compensators, which, yes, that's what the compensator was for, but it's not what you think. So we're going to get into that. We did have to install the compensator. And it was weird because we technically did not install it on the SAR B6. And I'm going to save those opinions for the opinionated part of the video. But instead, we installed it on the striker-fired pistol from the previous course, striker-fired pistols course. Not really too happy about that, but we'll talk about that in a second. So this is the compensator, and this firearm's also been safety checked before the video as well. So that was week 4. Week 5, there's really nothing in week 5. It's just reflection. So week 5 is just a basic reflection of what we've learned from the past 4 weeks and kind of conglomerates that into one nice little video that they make to kind of give us like just a conglomeration of everything we've learned, basically. So that basically is hammer-fired pistols. That's it. I've got a few complaints about this course, and I want to save a lot of that for my detailed reflection and review of the whole entire program, but we'll go ahead and get into it for this video. So I'm not happy about this course. I'm really not. Hammer-fired pistols, SDI, you can definitely do some more work on this course. This course needs to be overhauled, like ASAP, and we'll get into why. First reason why. And this is the big reason, and then we'll get into, the big reason first, and then, smaller parts. Why in the world are we doing work on a striker-fired pistol and a hammer-fired pistol course? Why that was, I have no idea. I don't know why they set it up like that. Everyone in the discussion boards was talking about it. Every single one in the discussion. I mean, literally every student has talked about that I'm in class with. Every single one of the students was like, why are we doing this? Shouldn't we be learning about the hammer-fired pistol? Because this is the hammer-fired pistol course. I don't know why they do certain things. I'm not faculty. But I will tell you, and now we're going to get into some nitty-gritty, details. This compensator sucks. With proper torque and installation, it wiggles around because it's technically not made for the PSA dagger slide. It's actually made for a Gen 3 Glock slide. And yes, you're probably thinking, well, PSA dagger is a clone. It's a clone. It's not a, the slide is different. They've cut the slide different. And so that's why it wiggles. It's not completely correct to the fitment of a OEM Glock 3 or Glock Gen 3 or Glock 19 Gen 3 slide. So the compensator sucks. It doesn't really work too well. I've shot about 50 rounds through this with the compensator installed. It's super heavy. It weighs the firearm down. It's way too big. And I just don't like it. That's my opinion, though. I mean, it's cool that they sent a compensator to learn how to do a modification on that. But why we did it on a striker-fired pistol and a hammer-fired pistol course, I have no idea. And now we can get into another problem. This firearm. Oh, man. Other students have talked about this as well. So the reason why I'm not really getting into it and locking the slide back and show you different features of this firearm like I've done in other courses, like I've talked deeply about the revolver we were sent, the PSA dagger that we were sent, this firearm is not functioning right now. The slide, there's some issues internally with some springs, and so it's not functioning. And I've got to find some time to fix it. But this firearm is trash. I'm sorry, SDI. I appreciate the other two firearms you sent, the Taurus 856 revolver and the PSA dagger. Those were pretty cool pistols. But this one sucks. I thought I was going to like this more than I did. The SAR B6, like I said, it's cloned after a CZ, chambered in 9mm. But let me tell you something. If you haven't fully disassembled one of these and tried to reassemble it, you have no room to talk. This firearm is trash. It's designed garbage. The springs, just everything. That trigger return spring is an absolute headache. Or not the trigger return spring, I'm sorry, I was thinking about revolvers. The sear spring is absolutely just a headache to install. I'm pretty sure it's installed incorrectly. That's why I'm having some issues with the trigger right now. But yeah, this firearm is trash. Other students, this is not just a biased video. There are tons of students, like 80% probably of the students in this class have talked bad about this firearm as well. I think they could have done better. And let me tell you how I think they could have done better. With a simple fix, exclude this firearm, take it away from the course, and do something very popular and something you're technically already offering SDI, which is a 1911. So you're already offering a 1911 within, the single course, like the 1911 singular course. Plus, you're actually already offering it in the programs, right? So in your associates and your certification programs for gunsmithing. So why there was not a 1911 in the Handgun Specialist Program, I don't know. I mean, I think this firearm's not the worst firearm in the world, but it sure is designed bad. I put about 100 rounds through this just trying to test it out when I first got it. And it shot decent. I mean, it's not a bad shooting firearm, but holy Lord, is it designed. Whoever designed this needs a timeout. I'm just going to go ahead and be honest with you, because it's not designed well at all. And let me tell you something. If you've ever took apart a AR-15 or something like that, you'll know that like on the AR platform, there's a ton of roll pins. There's a ton of roll pins for a pistol here. Why there's a ton of roll pin? I don't know. There's a roll pin here. There's a roll pin for every part of the trigger mechanism. I mean, it's absolutely insane. So very different here on this firearm. It just wasn't designed well, and like I said, I'm already having issues with it. And other students are too. It's not just me. Other students are saying that, that sear spring, they're having difficulties getting it in there. I think they could have done a better job. Like I said, the 1911, although they already offer the 1911 and other programs they offer, that's the whole reason why you should offer it. Not only is it easier for you all, SDI, because you're already having access to that firearm to be able to send to students, but it's an easier platform to learn. The 1911 is a pretty simple firearm to learn. Better shooting, in my opinion. Way more customization and modification. When we got to modification of this firearm, that's probably why they didn't do the compensator, because there's not a lot of modifications out here for this. I think a trigger job would have been great. You know, there's a reduced power spring set for this firearm. I think we could have done that. I think that would have been fun, but we didn't get to that. So instead of rambling on for minutes and minutes and minutes, we could do that. But, you know, just know that this course was sort of a letdown for me. And basically, like I said, the overarching reason why is when you're learning specific things about a specific platform, like hammer-fired pistols, it's very off-putting to learn about another platform within that platform you're supposed to be learning, right? So, again, learning about striker-fired pistols and doing work on striker-fired pistols in a hammer-fired pistols course. We could have just as easily did this in our striker-fired pistols course. I don't know why we didn't do that. Instead, literally the only thing we did to this firearm was disassemble it and reassemble it. That's the only thing we did. And during that process, some issues arose. Now I can't shoot it right now. So, and other students are affected with that same issue. So, this course has been a pretty big letdown for me. I think this needs an overhaul. You know, I'll give them a little bit of slack here. This is a new program for SDI, but we're going to get into that in the program overhaul or in the program reflection review. So this is just for the course. But yeah, I'm definitely disappointed that we didn't do more work on our hammer-fired pistol. I'm also disappointed with the firearm that we got. I'm disappointed with just the lack of information. You know, going back and thinking about, you know, talking about all those points that we learned, you know, we didn't learn half of what we learned from like our revolver course or the striker-fired pistol course. We learned a lot more in those, and we didn't learn as much in this course. So, you know, I'm not all, you know, talking sunshine and rainbows all the time. You know, when there's issues, I'm going to talk about them. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not going to, you know, I'm not sponsored by SDI, so I have no reason to, you know, only talk good about them. And I do think that they messed up on this course, and they need to do better. So SDI faculty, if you're listening, please overhaul this course for future students, because I didn't learn a thing. I learned how to disassemble and reassemble a hammer-fired pistol, and I learned how to do a modification on a different platform that was not supposed to be in the course that we were learning. So that's about it for this video. If you have enjoyed the video, please be sure to slap that like button. If you're new to the channel, please be sure to subscribe with notifications turned on so you don't miss a video. So ladies and gentlemen, that will be all for today. Thank you for watching. Tennessee Tactical, signing off.